World consumption has doubled since 1975. In the pursuit of wealth, we've created a world of instant communication and unrestricted global markets. Each day, over $1 trillion is traded in a global foreign exchange that never closes. It's business without borders. Money moves with lightning speed. Not since the Industrial Revolution has the workplace been so dramatically restructured. Globalization has been a triumph for the corporate giants and for e-commerce. But the explosion of international trade has also meant jeopardising jobs, forcing out local industries, and an ever greater impact on the natural world. Adding up the cost and the value of globalization, we find out who has lost and who has won in its wake. Seattle, host to the 1999 meeting of the World Trade Organization. 135 governments have come to set the agenda for the next round of trade negotiations. But the city's been besieged by 40,000 labor, environmental and human rights activists protesting about the WTO. Founded in 1995 to sort out trade disputes, they claim it puts too much emphasis on free rather than fair trade. Their banners decry everything from the greed of multinationals to genetically modified food. The scale of these protests took the world by surprise and was proof for many that it's time to re-examine the global economic machine. The beginnings of that machine date back to the Second World War, with the birth of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Formed to oversee post-war reconstruction and foster financial stability, these bodies controlled international capital flows. Both still exist today, but have had to vastly expand their job description, demanding economic reform as a condition of their loans. It was the IMF which stepped in to bail out Asia when the tiger economies went into meltdown in 1998. After foreign investors withdrew their monies overnight. It showed how volatile today's money markets are and what happens when they panic. In the US and some other countries, there are now several stock exchanges. In the old days, they all used to look like this, the New York Stock Exchange. For more than 2 centuries, America's mightiest companies, GM, Coke, Boeing, have listed here on the big board. Its stock value today is $12 trillion, but face-to-face trading has largely been replaced by electronic dealing.
If you don't get on this technology boom, if you don't compete, if you just kind of look around and resent that you're falling behind, you're going to just be left in the dust. You're going to miss the whole thing.
In a Park Avenue skyscraper, 150 day traders rent the latest digital technology to bypass stockbrokers and trade directly on the markets.
I bought 1,000 shares at 11.09 at 27 1/8.
They feed off the volatility of high technology stocks, traded on newer, nimbler exchanges like the Nasdaq. Speed is everything. Traders hold on to their stocks for an average of 4.5 minutes.
At 3/4, leaving me with 200 at 1,000. So I've made money on the trade.
And there are more and more companies every day. 30 years ago, there were just 7,000 companies operating internationally. Today, there are more than 50,000. The post-war years have seen multinationals outstrip the power of some governments. The sales of 10 of the world's largest companies exceed the gross national product of the world's 100 smallest countries. But foreign investors have raised living standards, by investing in developing economies. Globalization is reckoned to have brought 3 billion people out of poverty since World War II. The Miss India beauty pageant, the gala event in one of the poorest countries in the world. Yet this is a country which is forging ahead in one of today's booming industries, information technology. Alongside the sports stars and screen idols who usually judge the contest, stands a young computer entrepreneur.
Named as one of the elite 100 who has had the greatest impact on the computer industry of the world, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to present to you Sabir Bhatia.
At 27, Sabir Bhatia had an idea now used by internet surfers everywhere and sold it to Microsoft for $400 million.
To be honest with you, for the first couple of months, I was pinching myself every day. I didn't think that it was for real.
Hotmail is his invention, the simple idea of email on the World Wide Web. The internet is now the mouthpiece of a truly global village, and the number of surfers is growing phenomenally. There are already 100 million non-English users, and that group is growing fastest. Unsurprisingly then, the internet has produced thousands of cyber millionaires. But whilst India is the world's second largest emerging market, for these people, the internet and all the promise of the cyber age is worlds away. Luxury here is access to a washing machine, not a website. Barely half of India's billion people are literate, let alone computer literate. For most, survival is a daily struggle. So it's a paradox that a quarter of the world's software engineers are Indian, many based here in the city of Bangalore. Narayan Murthy is Bangalore's Mr. Big, founder of the computer giant Infosys. Every day he travels to work through One India, the squalid, struggling reality outside his high-tech compound, and arrives at work in another.
As our people come through in their buses, cars, and whatever it is to Infosys, they see on the road tremendous poverty, poor infrastructure, pollution, all that. And they come here, they get transformed into a mindset that is completely Western in terms of quality, timeliness, in terms of satisfying the customer, etc., etc. And they go back in the evening and they journey through this Indian reality once again. And that is tough, that's not easy.
Operating a world-class computer corporation in a country without modern phone lines or reliable electricity isn't easy either. Even in Bangalore, the erratic power supply plunges the city into darkness at least once a day.
Just to give you an idea, for example, if the power goes off for a fraction of a second in this center, it takes us about 8 to 10 hours to recover all the databases and all the programs on computers.
His answer is to build an entirely self-sufficient complex, a cyber city with its own electricity supply. Infosys is the living proof that once you are online, you're plugged into the global economy. And that's why it's gone from a $240 startup company 17 years ago to a $1.5 billion software exporter today.
My desire has always been to create wealth legally and ethically in India.
But whilst the internet has generated a huge amount of wealth, it's also meant the rebirth of civil society.